Mutual funds is one answer, Nathan. It's a front-end session, you can guess. Yeah. Anyone else? So when I say MF, what comes to your mind? So I think they are both investors and developers sitting here. So yeah, I am also thinking about the same. So I think mutual funds and micro fronting have one thing in common. When I say mutual funds, the mutual funds take time to grow. Micro fronting takes time to integrate. But just like Elon Musk tweets, both can surprise you. So now let's have a quick, fun brain teaser. So are you all up for it? Okay. Okay, so first brain teaser. I sit and wait for something to show. Patience is key, but times move slow. What keeps you paused until it's ready to go? I'll just repeat again. I sit and wait for something to show. Patience is key, but time moves slow. What keeps you paused until it's ready to go?
System reboot.
No. No. So when, like for example, I'll just give you a hint. So, no.
About controller.
No. Okay, so for example, if you are going for a coffee, so you keep one person as a fallback for you. No. What keeps you paused? No. Okay. It's suspense. Okay, so next brain teaser. Okay. So I carry instructions from one to the next. I don't change a word, I just reflect. What travels safely without any text? It's easy. You can transfer one thing, same one thing to other thing.
Text.
Text in the form of
Emoji.
no.
JSON.stringify.
Okay, so what can you pass from one component to another component? Yeah. So next, without me, order falls apart. I give each time its proper part. What keeps things in place from the start?
Q.
Correct.
Orderly.
So next, we'll get the goodies. Who responded? All of you. So I'll tell everyone what they should know. No need to repeat. I'll let it flow. Who shares knowledge so all can grow?
Context. Reducer.
No. The first answer who said?
State.
No.
Context.
Yeah, this is correct. I see the world, though I have no sight. I detect the objects day or night. Who interprets images right? Okay, I'll give you one hint. It's related to one Marvel person. Okay, he was also invented him? Jarvis, and Jarvis connected with whom?
Vision.
Yeah, right. The answer is question. Okay, so I'll be calling Ambika to take on the stage.
Welcome back, everybody. Congrats on surviving lunch break. How was the food? Okay, anyways, we genuinely appreciate it. Our next two speakers are one of our strongest mobile and front-end technologists. Both principal engineers at Meetmatic, sharing app quality, debugging frameworks, and observability systems at scale. Please welcome Rajesh Bhatt and Asta Dixit, presenting Build Your Own React Native Observability. Debug faster, ship better.
Hello, I hope I'm not too loud. Good. Thank you, Nagamita, for the introduction. Well, before we start with our observability, let's first check the sense of the audience in this room. How many of you are React Native developers here? Well, quite a few. So maybe you'll relate to this more. I'll tell you a story. I remember a few months back, my manager came to me asking, Asta, can you give me some data on how did our homepage perform when compared to the older one? We've taken a new homepage on our React Native app. I gave him some data. I gave him some errors, metrics, I gave him some API call number, but he said no. I need to know how is this page performing? How is it rendering for our users? Sadly, I had to say I don't know. And I had no metrics that I could share with him. For web pages or web applications, you have tools like Google Lighthouse, your page speed insights, where you can measure the performance of your application. Or basically, how exactly does your page perform? But for React Native, we had no such metrics. Hence, well, I was embarrassed, but it was also concerning for me at the same time. So, we went back trying to understand how can we calculate this or how can we get a number to this performance. So, after making or doing our research on that, we came up to a final conclusion where we thought we will build our own React Native performance monitoring system. So, if you relate to something like this is exactly the place where you have to be. Well, hi, I'm Asta.
Hi. So, thanks everyone for being here, especially parents. So, the right one to talk is owning the RNL. Like, I know this doesn't make sense in the title, but it makes sense in the next slides. So, just a brief overview of what we'll be covering in this session. So, first, we'll be defining what is observability. In the terms of mobile applications, and then we will cover about why observability is complex in some context of super apps, where one app has so many different modules and all of that behaves as an individual app itself, right? And those poses a challenge for observability. And then we'll be covering about how we came up with the solutions for this problem, and then we'll be showing details about the problem solution. Right? Cool. So to start with, right, I'm sure everyone here who has developed applications or even websites as well, pretty much everyone would have used something to detect like crashes or errors, right, which is faced by users, right? Like you would like to see the stack traces and some more context like breadcrumbs and some other meta information like the device context, device information and all. All those things will help you to pinpoint the errors more clearly, right? But observability is an umbrella term, whereas error is just one part of it, right? Like in observability, you would like to know what and all is happening in your application, how many number of errors, right? What are all the different metrics you have? So in web world, we have some standard metrics like FCP, LCP, TTFP, INP, and all. In app also, we can define our own metrics. Right? So we would like to collect all of them, and like the concept of metric itself is one part of observability, and another part of observability is traces. So metrics is just singular dimension, right? It just says that this took this much time. Whereas traces is a construct where like we can know, let's say if a page took like 5 seconds to load, we can know the subcomponents, like how much time was the contribution of this API call, or this data fetch, or this processing, or some rendering, right? Like you will know the waterfall model. So this is something similar that you would see in profiling, performance profiling, like where you would see the flame graph and whatnot. So observability comprises of all these things, like it comprises of a unified solution where you can see your metrics, errors, traces, and even logs. So I have not included logs here because it wouldn't fit in this slide. Yeah, those things help you understand what's really going on in your app. Right. So now I've explained what is observability, which is getting to know what's happening deeply inside your app. And now like I'll explain what are the challenges that we face as a super app. Like just as a for people who don't know, right, MakerDev is not just for flights or hotels. MakerDev like has a lot of other offerings like cabs, bus, trains, holidays, forex, and so on and so on. Like there are so many things, and we also have like post-booking flows for them. Right? Like, so all of these individual apps, they behave like a separate app all together, right? They work in silos. Their team has dedicated front end, dedicated back end, dedicated testing, right? Like they are completely, for almost all purposes, you can think of them as a separate app in terms of software lifecycle. And sometimes the technology is also fragmented. It's not like we have only one consistent framework, one consistent methodology or architecture for all these fragmented apps. Like example, like we have some parts, some flows are in React Native, some flows are in Native, and there are some smaller flows in Vim, right? And also like in the backend is also like each module will have connect to its own backend, right? And therefore, like when we want to really understand something, when we really want to understand one app, we want to understand like what was happening in the backend as well, to get a clear picture. Like what was the user flow, like what is this server return, what did that server return, and how did client process it, right? So backend is also fragmented, frontend is also fragmented, both in terms of teams and technologies. Right? So now let's say if one team uses New Relic in their backend, and another team uses Elastic in their backend, right? We cannot afford to like use the corresponding native SDKs of New Relic or Elastic or Sentry or whatnot, right? Like it will load up the app a lot. And also, like even if you use a singular stack, let's say for Sentry, right, you will not be able to configure per app. You will not be able to configure like sample rate, let's say only for one single flow, right? Especially the problem that I said is applicable for native and React Native, where like the execution context is shared. There is only one process. This problem doesn't apply in web because in web, like for each domain, Sentry has a micro frontend support. In apps, there is none. Right. So now, like, how do we deal with this complexity, right? So, end-to-end solution, open telemetry. So, as I explained before, like, what is observability, right? It's just bunch of getting a full context of what's happening in app, right? And another problem that I explained is the backend is too fragmented, right? So, one way to bridge this thing is to come up with a standard, like, with which every backend can understand what's going on in front end, and it can tell what was happening in the backend system also, so full bridge, right? So apparently this is not a solution that was implemented by us, or we were not earlier adopters. So this is a very established solution which is used by pretty much all the vendors like New Ready, Sentry, Datadog and all. So this is just a protocol about how do you structure your performance data so that any client can work with any vendors, right? Like say if I'm a client using this OpenTelemetry protocol and standard, like I can use, today I can use Neural, tomorrow I can switch to Elastic, and later I can switch to something else, right? So I'm not really locked into one vendor. So this standards help us to decouple things and establish some standardization across frameworks and apps and backends. So Asa will take over like how we implemented our solution modeling this.
So thank you, Rajesh, for explaining us the concept of open telemetry and also explaining us observability majorly in regards to our React Native application. Well, I'll walk you through how did we leverage this concept and created our own performance monitoring system. So we first created a performance tracker, which is a React Native package. This is basically our instrumentation layer when we compare it to the open telemetry standards. We collect the data, we collect our matrix in this in a generic format, and then forwards it to the next layer. Our instrumentation layer actually does not care or bother about where this data will stand or will be stored. Hence, it just forwards it to the next layer. The next layer is our backend API. We have a backend API exposed which collects the data, validates it, enriches it, and then routes it to our data warehouse. So backend actually acts like a collector when we compare it to the OpenTelemetry standards. Next, we have Elasticsearch. Again, as Rajesh was explaining, the exporter layer in the OpenTelemetry standards can have any other vendor which of your choice. But in our case, we chose Elasticsearch. This is where our storage or the data or the matrix that we are pushing for our application, it resides. And then this from here, we power our dashboards. So the next and the last is our visualization layer. We currently have two kind of dashboards. One is our traditional Kibana dashboards where we get nice visualizations and pictorial representations. And the next is the AI dashboard, which we'll talk about in the next slides. Now, let's understand how and what gets tracked from our performance tracker. Well, as of today, our performance tracker package majorly captures three different categories of performance metrics: startup performance, navigation performance, and network performance. Okay? Now, from the time the user clicks on Make Matrix application to the time my React Native application is interactive, that's what goes into my React Native or the initial startup performance. In our case, we have it in two phases. One, the native phase of it, then the React Native phase of it. So at native layer, we collect some matrix. I'll talk in detail about this in the next slide. But on our React Native application, we track certain metrics which are React Native specific. For doing this right now, the way our performance package tracks it is, you just have to make sure that you have initialized the package and then you have wrapped your provider with our HOC. And everything else gets tracked automatically. Next, we have the navigation performance. So when a user moves from one screen to another screen, we want to know exactly when the first render of my page happened and exactly when my page became interactive. So that we know how much time did my page take to load. Now, for navigation tracking, we actually use Shopify's React Native Performance. It is an open source package which uses the native APIs, the native backed APIs, for fetching the information like the first render and the time to interaction. So Shopify also, so if I have to be more specific about how it judges, under the hood, our Shopify package actually uses the view did appear for iOS, and for Android it uses the window on focus changed. So that's how it fetches the exact pixel of when the screen became visible. Next, we have network performance. So all the APIs that are there in your application are actually, we actually track that. We fetch the duration, status, request response size and the URL and put it into our performance tracker system. For this, we are using the technique as monkey patching. Basically, we intercept the global fetch function, and whenever a request passes through it, we first extract the required information, the matrix that we require, and then we pass it on to the original fetch. Again, for this, you don't need to make any changes in your code. If when you are initializing the package, the performance package that we have created, at that time, if you have enabled the network tracking, it will automatically get tracked. So in all these phases, we have tried that we or the user or the consumer for this package does not have to make any change in their code, or at least the minimum that we can possibly do. Now we move to the next phase where I'll talk about how does it work in our journey, how our app timeline works here. So once the user clicks on the Make My Trip application, first our native app launches. Because as Rajesh was explaining, we have a native app, inside that we have multiple React Native applications. So once a native app launches, we calculate the app launch time and the native shell init time. These get stored at the native layer initially. Then once a user clicks on any of our React Native application like cabs, bus, trains or any other that we have, that's when the React initialization, the bridge initialization happens. Once the connection is established, we have the JS download, the React bundle download. So all these metrics till now are getting tracked at native. After this, we have a handoff from native to React Native. But before this handoff happens, we also transfer the native captured matrix to our React Native. And once the React Native has initialized, we continue further with our further tracking metrics like the first content load, the time to interaction. Now, as the user keeps using the app, we further track our screen navigations, API calls, user activity, all the other metrics that we require for our performance package. So that's our journey. Now we know what exactly are we capturing and how is our client layer working here. Next is what happens after this. So our instrumentation layer is done. And as we initially said that the job of our instrumentation layer is just to collect this data in a generic format without bothering where this data is going. Next, we pass it on to our backend API. It's just an exposed API which collects the data from our React Native application and then validates it, deduplicates it, we enrich the data in that and then pushes it to the next layer which is our data warehouse. Here we have made sure that these are non-blocking calls because otherwise the performance of your mobile application will go down just because you wanted to have some performance metrics. So these are non-blocking calls and this has no impact on your mobile application. Next, once the data is pushed from our backend layer to our data warehouse, we have been using Elastic as I told earlier. This is where our data resides. It handles millions of data for us and it also powers our dashboards. So our first dashboard is our Kibana dashboard, which is the traditional dashboard that you can create using these in these metrics that you've collected. It helps us in deep analysis of the data. It helps us with custom visualization and historical trend analysis. These are powerful dashboards, but you need Elastic DSL knowledge to create this. Now, what if we could do this in plain English? And hence we created an AI conversational dashboard for today, where anybody who does not even have the knowledge of our Elastic DSL can also query or understand how my app is performing. So I'll just show you our visualization there right now. So this is our Kibana dashboards. As I said that we have categorized our performance into 3 main categories as of today. So we have startup matrix dashboard, we have a screen navigation dashboard, and we have a network layer dashboard. So these are basic representation of how our app is performing. For, let's say for startup matrix, we have put a visualization of how our FCP, the first content paint, and how our TTI is performing over the trend. Similarly, we have done it for JS metric because all these metrics are important to understand how your app is performing for your real users, right? Now, what if I could just query this in my conversational dashboard? So let's just see. Let me try to ask if we can compare the TTI for today and yesterday. It should not take that much time, but I hope this demo will go well. Yeah, great. So yeah, we get a nice visualization of how it's performing, and there's a comparison of today and yesterday. Now let me see if I can ask, do we have any alerts for high TTI? It says there are currently no alerts. Let's also check it in our Kibana dashboards. Let's reload this as well. Well, we don't have it. Let's try creating one now. Set an alert if my TTI is greater than 3 seconds. Well, it does say that yes, it has successfully created the rule. Let's check it here. And yes, our rule is created. So now, anytime we expect a TTI or we get a TTI which is greater than 3 seconds, we get an alert. Well, this is how we are trying to make our conversational or understanding of performance be simpler for anybody and can be accessed by a technical or a non-technical person. Next, right now, we've seen a demo, we've seen how we have done this, how we have achieved the performance. Let's see how technically can we fetch all this information. Well, the integration for this is pretty simple. It's less than 5 minutes. We only need 3 steps majorly. First, we need to wrap our provider with a startup tracking HOC. In our case, we call it as with startup tracking. The next is, and this helps us in tracking the startup matrix initially. Next is, we initialize our tracker in the application's on-mount function. We have a performance tracker.initialize tracking function. Here you can pass your log name, your session ID. We also have certain flags with which you can actually disable. Let's say I don't want to know my network tracking details in this. So you can disable that, but by default you get all these instrumentations. And the last is, you need to wrap your screens with a screen profiler HOC. This is to get the screen navigation events and its details even better. So this is just a 5-minute integration with just 3 steps, and you get to know the 100% visibility on your performance. Well, then, what did we achieve from it? Yes, we went from very limited visibility or almost no visibility on how my application was rendering to at least we got some real-time user data, and we have millions of metrics right now to understand how is it performing for our real users. Then earlier when somebody used to tell us, your app is performing slow, it used to take us time to understand which screen, where and why. But now we can instantly get to know this, that yes, this screen or this navigation is slow. Great. So now we have built the foundation, and now it's time to supercharge it. Let's see what all do we have in our future roadmap to make sure that this performance monitoring system becomes a better world for all the other people facing a similar issue. So we know what happened. We know there was a slow TTI, we know there was a slow navigation from screen A to screen B, but we don't know why. We don't know which React Native code actually caused this. So we need to have traces for our events. Similarly, we know that there is some backend service which is causing this issue, but we need to know, or we need to identify which one exactly. Hence, we need some distributed tracing, that's in our roadmap. We also want to enhance our AI features. We want to have an automatic root cause analysis system, where once a TTI or any other value for that matter goes above the threshold, we get to know about it, that why did it happen. We want to enhance our matrix with some FPS and memory leaking tracking. To have a unified performance view, we also want to make sure that it's integrated with all our logs. And last but not the least, we'd love to go open source so that all the other people in the React Native community who are facing a similar problem get to use this. So yeah, that's what we've done to solve our problem. I hope it helps others, and we're open for any questions.
Any questions?
Yes, please.
Just a second.
So is it open source? Second thing is, Lighthouse and all these tools are basically integrated within the browsers and they don't take code capacity. For this, we have to install the package in our code base, correct? So, yeah. And so on the same note, do you all have any plans for making an extension or separating that from the code base? Yeah, so that's fine.
Yes, so this is for reacting, right? It's not a browser thing. So yes, it will be a package and like we'll make it better over time. So we just started this thing, so we'll apply more automatic instrumentation. We need to clean up some DTA surface as well. So once we are done, this is a test.
And does it also, like Lighthouse, let's say, FCP, the last section is it provides you suggestions for improvement. You all have that also? Like how can it be improved?
Yeah, this is something Sentry has this solution, something as Sentry Seer. So we'll take a look at it, like what it does, and we'll also try to support it, like, because it can integrate with the code as well, right? Using GenAI, we can give the data of trace and the code, and it can figure out like what can be improved and give a suggestion.
So for now, this is just showing the analytics.
Yeah, it's a very low-level implementation what we have done. It's not fully extensible. It's not covering everything. We are starting with the most important metrics that we want to cover.
Thank you.
Hi, Rasta and Rajesh. I think you, what I could understand that you are trying to fill the gap, right? Tools which are already available for the web, but those are not there for React Native. So one interesting thing which I noticed was the alerting part, right? You guys have put in alerting. So just a question on that. So is the events that are getting pushed, these are all real user events, right? If I'm using Rail bus, those events are flowing through the system. The alerting, is it based on, like, it's a relative alerting that we can put, or it's like an absolute, like, let's say some user on some device basically reach a threshold of TTI, let's say, or the metric that we are tracking. Will you get an alert, or it is like a club of events all giving an average that, okay, this value is going above average now, then you push the alert. How you tackle those false positives?
So again, as I said, we have started now, but ideally what we should be doing is as an aggregate, not individual user level, as an aggregate, because at individual user level, a lot of things could be happening. Very slow network, almost. Like device also might have to do some funny things. I hope I got the question right. Like, this is the question. Yeah, so we'll be doing only at the user level, but again we'll be having alerts at different percentages. Most of the time we'll be looking at P95, and sometimes like we might have to check at P90 also, like have a different bars of alertness for different percentages.
Great talk, thank you so much. So I saw that there's a handoff that happens from native to React Native. Say there's a crash on the React Native side. How is that handled?
So this entire collection logic will run on native side, right? So that like all the events has to be persistent before reset, because like while we capture and we push it out from the device, right? Some failures can happen. So we always will try to push it in the native first, like do all the basic queuing, batching, sampling, all these things, and then we will send it to the correct.
So all events go by the native.
Yes, there will be a retrade logic and for native.
Thanks.
Hi, it was a great session. So I have a question regarding the conversational dashboard which you showed. Just two questions regarding that. One of the question is you were saying that it's in for a normal user to understand that you have made a normal English dashboard which gives you a chart which a normal user can understand. So is there an LLM there in between which you are using? And the second question is, you gave a prompt to that to add some feature into your main dashboard. like it was not there, so you gave a prompt to it, and then so how did you handle that, and how it did that?
Okay, so in this case, when we type something in natural language, we are using the GPT to convert that into the Elastic query. It fetches that information, it creates a query, fetches that information from your Elastic, and then again transfers it back to a natural language to portray that. So yes, we are using a GPT to that. Sorry, your next question was?
The query which you prompted it to add some feature into your main app. So how are you handling that, and how is it doing that, adding a feature?
Same, it again, like when I said check for alerts, it first checks whether we have an existing alert. Let's say I already had an event and I would have asked it to create an alert. It would have prompted. Same happens, it first goes into the GPT, GPT makes a query for it, and then it queries our Elastic dashboard, and then it comes back. So yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Oh, we have another question, I'm sorry.
Hi, great talk. One question. So, have you all measured what's the overhead of using this?
So, we did measure it, as of now, the current instrument, we have started at a very fundamental instrumentation.
Correct.
And they were low overhead, we did measure that. But we are yet to measure some parts, like especially the queuing and batching, like the persistence, because those things have to be tuned a little bit more. Again, we just started, we tried and we get it right.
Yeah, because I think you mentioned that those are non-blocking calls, but again, they're going to compete for the same resources in the app, essentially bandwidth and CPU and throttling, whatever happens,
Yes.
right? So, my another question, the follow-up question was, will it be collecting data for a flow and then, sending it over the wire, or will it be doing it live while the screen changes happen?
Can you repeat this part?
Yeah, so every time there is a screen change or a button click, there will be a next screen that will take some XYZ amount of time to load. So will it be, so screen 1 call 1 to logging, screen 2 call 2 to logging, or screen 1, 2, 3, 4 at the end of the flow, logging, screen 1, 2, 3, 4.
So we'll be patching the grids, because for every call, I can't afford to make a
Exactly.
So we'll be patching, and also we'll QA it, and then we'll also have retail logic, and if required, we'll call sample also, so that sample and even like implement a rate limiter at the backend as a response header, like we can read and we can back off if backend says that it is anything. So all these mechanisms will be created. Right now we are only some sample rate and patching. This rate limiting logic will be implemented in the future. Thanks. Yes, that's it.
Thank you both. That was a powerful playbook for every React Native team. Our next speaker has worked extensively on web performance and FE tooling at scale during his time at Amazon Web Services, where he served as a former senior front-end engineer. He is known for his deep understanding of browser dev tools and the engineering workflows that makes world-class apps possible. Please welcome Naman Sancheti speaking on browser dev tool superpowers, building best-in-class apps faster. Naman.
Hey, first of all, thanks for the great introduction. Have you ever wondered what if you could use your app as someone with color blindness? Or what if you could test your fix in production without having to deploy? Or what if we could tweak an author's CSS but do it visually? And what if debugging animations did not have to be a nightmare? Heck, what if we got assistance with all the heavy lifting? Sounds like a dream? Well, I'm here to tell you browser dev tools can do that. Hey everyone, my name is Naman. As of earlier this month, I was working as a senior front-end engineer at AWS in the San Francisco Bay Area. So after 6 amazing years at Amazon, decided to move back home and explore the exciting world out here. So it's great to be back. In fact, I attended the first episode of Upfront and couldn't make it to the second one, so it's great to be back this time as a speaker. Outside of tech, I'm also deeply care about accessibility and a few things outside of tech, so if any of that sounds interesting, we'd love to chat offline. So before we get started, to set the right expectations for the talk, it's not a comprehensive guide of all the features, since quite simply there's a lot to cover and we have limited time. Debugging performance, I think we got some even today great guidance on this, so that's something we wouldn't go over. Lighthouse and audit reports are mostly self-explanatory. Extensions are not available out of the box, and frankly experimental features which may or may not make it to the stable version. So that's something we wouldn't cover, but we'll instead focus on Chrome, though we will cover other browsers, and that mirrors the browser usage numbers as well. And we'll focus on the most useful yet lesser known features. So I actually spoke on the same topic last month at React India, so this is the updated version of the talk. And we'll start off with a generic set of capabilities, followed by accessibility, CSS, debugging, emulation, testing, AI, and more. So let's get started with a generic set of capabilities. So command palette. This is my personal favorite. I use it all the time. So this is very similar to what you might have used in VS Code or Figma and GitHub. It's this globally available bar where you simply start typing the command you're looking for, and you don't have to locate it within DevTools. It's also great for discovering the different commands and learning the keyboard shortcuts. Beyond this, it also helps with navigating source code. So we can even, for example, here we're opening files on the Make My Trip site. So we all love console logs, and it has a couple of handy features that you might find useful. So say we wanted to time a certain operation. One way of doing this is to just take a date object, calculate the diff, and just print that out. But what's nice is we can just call console.time, pass in a label, wrap it around the operation you want to time, and that's it. We get the time printed out. So that's nice. Often we also want to group our logs because we might want to see the sequence in which things are getting logged. So here console.group can help. Similarly, where we just pass in a label, wrap it with the log we want to have grouped, and just call console.group n at the end. So we'll see in the next slide that neatly groups together the logs. Similarly, say we have like a set of JSON objects, and we want to print it in a tabular form so that we can even sort them. We can call console.table and pass in the object. So this is how the group output looks like. So that's nice, and this is how the tabular form looks like. Say we wanted to use JavaScript to update an element. Could be adding a class, removing an attribute. So one way of doing this is, we form a CSS selector, call it document.query selector, and grab the node. But an easier way is just use the DevTools from DevTools selector. So this is pointer slash mouse space, and just use $0 to refer to it. And this even goes back to the last 5 elements. It goes all the way to $4. As developers, accessibility is not a favor, it's a duty, and we need a way to validate that our app works well for all kinds of users. So say you wanted to emulate visual efficiencies. So this is how the upfront side looks like for someone having blurred vision. And that is how it looks like to someone who has protocontrol, which is the efficiency of the color red. So that's nice that we can make sure it looks good for those users. Color contrast is another important part of an accessible experience. So what's nice is we can just click the swatch, color swatch for the foreground color, and that really shows us the contrast ratio and whether or not it meets the AA and AAA standards. But what's awesome is if it does not meet the requirements, we even get a suggested color which we can just, if we choose to apply that, it solves the, make sure it meets the contrast requirements. Keyboard navigation is another important part of an accessible experience, but what's unfortunate is a lot of sites have the default styling, the default focus styling is disabled or tweaked in some manner. So we can here, say we wanted to track the currently focused element, we can just create a live expression on document or active element, and that way, as we navigate around the site, we'll be able to see what's the currently focused element. And finally, area attributes and properties is another important part of an accessible experience. So for this, we need to switch over to the accessibility preview, right, which is different from the default long preview. So for this, we have this floating icon on the top right. So you click that, and for example, if you were to validate that, we have this register button. It's marked correctly in terms of the role, and it's marked correctly. Let's go to CSS next. So let's be honest, most of us get into web development / frontend with like some fancy JavaScript framework and not really spend enough time learning HTML and CSS properly, which one fine day leads to this. Man, we really hate CSS. In fact, if you had the chance to center it vertically without using CSS grid or Flexbox, you know what I mean. So it's great that grid and Flexbox have simplified layout. But say you're somebody who's new to this, or say you're coming to this after a while and you're not able to recall the right property or value to use. So what's nice is we have this visual experience now where you can just click the badge beside the display property, and that way we can do this. Now we've all had our battles with CSS specificity at some point or the other, where we spent a while trying to get our styles to apply, and at the end of it, just slap the hash button and call it a day. So it's nice that sometime back we got cascade layers, which simplified this, and sure enough, DevTools has this layers view. So that helps with debugging specificity problems. And if you work with shadows, you probably had a hard time mapping what each value, or rather what property each value maps to and what effect it would have. So it's nice that we have this visual experience for this now, and the same goes for angle. Let's go for debugging next. Now, we've all had at least one bug that we've run into at some point where we spent hours trying to debug, and just the fact that we got past the previous error felt like a big win. In fact, debugging is a very important part of everyday programming. And it usually goes with, hey, why does this work or why does this not work? And ends with, oh, that's why. So what if debugging did not mean having to step through third party? So here, ignored list scripts can help. So here, for example, we're adding this is from the React India side where we add the framework code to the ignore list, and that way the debugger, we can see gets added as a custom exclusion tool, and then that way helps when we're stepping through the code. But remember, you're wondering, what if debugging animations did not have to be a nightmare? So what's nice is we can now say we have a rubber band animation here. Chrome DevTools will simply record this and see it in a timeline view. So here we can slow it down and have a closer look. But what's really nice is we can even tweak those individual parts of this animation, and then that way we can get the perfect timing that we're looking for. Also, if there are times where our users are having some issue on their device and we want to be able to take a closer look. So here we can use we can basically ask them to export their network activity to what's called a HTTP archive file or HAR file, and then we can import it back on our machine. So this is like useful that way. One call out here is make sure that when your users are sharing this, they also just sanitize it, because sometimes the file can capture sensitive. So our users have preferences, and it's really important for us to make sure we respect those preferences. Especially say something like a preference for reduced motion, right? Which can have an impact on the health of the user. So here we need a way to validate, and emulation helps us here. In addition to emulating this reduced motion preference, for example, we can also emulate the preferred color scheme and validate. Not all of our users have the best network connectivity, and it can even be a transient issue. Because say they're traveling or they're just having a bad connection. So while it's great that we can emulate this and validate, what's awesome is we can even set a custom upload and download speed, and that way make sure our app works well. In today's age, our app is accessible on all sorts of devices. I mean, there's everything from a gaming console to a foldable phone to a ultra-wide monitor. So it's really important to make sure our app works well on all devices, and that's where the device emulation view can help. So here we can just validate it across the different breakpoints. Let's move to testing next. So remember, you're wondering what if we could test our fix in production without having to deploy. Now, as we all know, it's not that simple, or is it? So local overrides can help here. The way this works is we go to the sources panel and we need to grant DevTools permission to a folder on our local disk. Once we do that, the fun begins. So here, for example, we override the markup for the React website where we just update the year from 2025 to 2026, hit save, refresh, and that's it. We just updated the site. So this is very useful for, say, if you want to validate changing the local on the page or tweaking the content security policy on the page. So you can very quickly validate. And it even helps us override API response. So you can even override a given API response and then just validate that how our app works there. And then there's more. There's progress we have to offer. I think previously we had like Wasm or there was simply covered. So yes, that tool has support for working with Wasm. There's remote debugging, which is for native mobile apps. There's application tab, which is probably used. There's code snippets, which is you can reuse JavaScript across DevTools sessions. Firefox even has this fonts panel, so you can see all things to do with typography. In fact, it has an awesome compatibility view where you can just define our target counters and then it flags issues with any style which might not work well. Safari even has this graphics panel which is useful for debugging canvas elements. So here we have this Excalibur site where we draw this rectangle and we're able to take a photo. And finally, yes, I think we got a teaser into some of the AI assistants which is in DevTools. So yes, sure enough, AI has made its way to Chrome DevTools as well. So to enable this, we need to head to settings and under AI innovations, enable this. And from there on, we have this icon, global icon on the top right. So we can just click that, which then brings us to this chat experience with the agent, which as I mentioned is like Gemini based. So here, for example, we can ask it to help us remove truncation for this learn more button. Right? So note here that the context on the bottom left is set to this button, right? And just based on this prompt, the agent is able to come up with different approaches. So it asks us to pick one of them. So in this case, say we go ahead with the first one, which is removing the overflow and text overflow properties. It then generates the code, right? The code change. And this is called termed like an action with effects. So it basically waits for our consent, right? And once we approve this, if you take a closer look, it tries to set these to the value null, which ends up not having the desired effect or output. So what's nice is it's robust enough that it doesn't like fail or just crash. It actually is able to fall back to a different approach, which is to set the default values for these properties. And sure enough, that does the job. So we're able to make this change, and from there we can just directly persist these changes, right? So for this, we have this apply to workspace, and for this as well, we need to give DevTools permission to a folder one test, but that way we can persist this. You can also help us with, beyond this, we can also link from any given element, right? So we can just right click and it gives us, based on the element, suggested things it can help us with. And then that will be linked to the chat with that element as the context and the prompt also. In fact, beyond just executing changes, we can even just ask it certain things. So for example, here we ask it, hey, can you explain how adding a margin auto can help center a line horizontally? Yeah, we say it does a great job at explaining that. Beyond CSS and DOM, it can even help us analyze network events. So here, for example, we have this log event request. So what's interesting here is, say we ask it, hey, why does this request take so long, right? Or why is it slow? So what's interesting is it looks at what the request tries to do. It looks at the breakdown from a timing perspective. So it sees that most of the time is spent in waiting for server response. It also sees that it takes 95 milliseconds. Based on that, it's actually able to rebut our claim saying, hey, for this sort of a request, based on the analysis, this is actually acceptable latency. So that's really nice. And yeah, it can also help us, and say we have this like LCP inside, it can help us understand that better. Even in the trace view, we can click a given task. So here, say here we have the compile script task. So that gets set as the context, and then it can help us, understand that better. It can also help with source code. So here, for example, we ask if we have this base.js file, right? And we ask it that, hey, can you help me understand what does this script do, right? And it's able to tell us that, hey, this is the file which is needed for the embedded YouTube video script. So really powerful. In fact, it can also help. I think this was shown in one of the earlier talks. It can also help with JavaScript console warnings and errors. So we are on the React doc site, and we have this warning related to preloading. And yeah, we can just say, hey, help me understand this warning. And if you don't like the explanation, it even lets us deep link to a Google search. So yeah, that's good. And just in the last version, we also got the ability to have code suggestions. So what's nice is, based on just the function name, it can help us with some good suggestions. So here, for example, we're trying to add a button to scroll to the top of the page. We just tell it find all links, and it's able to give some meaningful suggestions. And beyond all this AI assistance, as was mentioned before, we also got a MCP server, or a model context protocol server, which was launched last month. So this is very powerful. What it means, what it enables is the agent can now launch an actual Chrome instance, and it can basically do any actions that a human would, which is clicking and typing. But beyond that, it can even run like a analysis of the performance, look at the network activity, even debug. So what that means is the agent is no longer limited to just suggesting code and hoping for the best. It's actually able to validate that the suggested code works, say it improves performance, and doesn't end up causing no problems. So yeah, so it's very powerful. So these capabilities are called tools in the MCP world, and this is of course input and performance and so on. And this is evolving. I think we have on Monday a newer version coming out, so it's pretty much fast evolving. The way to set this up is really easy. You just need to add this config to the MCP client of your choice. In this case, I'm using VS Code with client, so all you do is add it there, and then you have access to all these tools. So say we ask it to, in this case, analyze the performance of the content site. So it's able to figure out that, hey, first needs to launch a new, open the new page using Chrome DevTools. So once we approve that, you can see it launches this new instance, and at the top, you have this banner that says Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. And and from there, it asks to take a screenshot. It runs a performance trace. It looks at network requests. It looks at console messages. Keeps us informed throughout, and at the end it gives us this very detailed performance analysis report. So you can see here it recommends adding the fetch priority attribute to optimize the LCP image. It recommends adding a pre-connect for the image to load from the CDN. It even splits these actions by priority. And it even tells us what's already working well. And what I found cool is it even tells us the expected performance gain after implementing these fixes. So as you can see, all of that from that one really simple prompt. So as we've seen throughout the talk, We started with a set of wishes, and it's incredible that our wishes have come to life. This essentially helps us deliver best in class user experience, improve our productivity, improve our developer experience. And what's interesting is a lot of the features here are not necessarily recent additions, right? Which is why I urge you that when you see this What's New page, do take a quick look because that feature you wish existed might just have come to life. And there's one coming, should be on Monday, as I said, for the next version. So, yeah, so a lot of the AI features are very fast evolving. And while we're at it, we might even run into one of the many Easter eggs. So we get to play this great game right within DevTools. So that's fun. Here are some references, which is mainly the official DevTools docs, and also this blog by Adi Osmani, who is a Chrome veteran. And yeah, with that, it's been an honor. Thank you. I think we have a few minutes, so if there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer those. I think.
Hi, yeah, great doctor. So you spoke about ignore list scripts, right? And that's something new to me. And can you throw some more light on it and maybe with an example, like what?
Yeah, so an example could be essentially any of the libraries or frameworks that you might be using on a given app, right? So at some point, your application code would end up calling the framework or library code, right? Like say something even as simple as a Lodash helper, right? And so when you're debugging, you wouldn't want to step through or get into the Lodash code, right?
The console's message is in yellow color. That's what you mean?
No. This is the debugger mode. So basically, when you say you've added a breakpoint, and you're running in debug mode, so at some point it will try to step, into your function call, which then steps into the underlying library or framework code. So this is more for like, hey, I don't want the debugger to.
So basically, if I'm calling a function, let's say it's utilizing a function, let's say in a package or something.
Correct.
When I debug that, it will actually, if the ignore is not there, it will go to that function. But
Correct. The default behavior is just
so when you skip that, you can directly.
Correct. So you can just add, as it says, like a custom exclusion and that way it's any other questions? Okay, maybe the last 2 seconds, otherwise we'll wrap. Alright, in that case, thank you so much. Hope this was helpful and happy to come.
Thank you, Naman. That was the power tips for every fucking developer. It's time for audience flash talks. Short, sharp, high impact sessions delivered by you. Let's welcome our first speaker for Flash Talk to the stage. Divjot from Udan.
Patience. Yeah. So, looking for 10 minutes flash talk. I'll go through this case study of how we improve the performance of an interaction in our app. So before I begin, I want to ask how many of you are web developers? Okay, 80% of the audience. And how many of you are React Native developers? 5% of the audience. So this is largely for you. But don't worry, web developers, you can feel good that how awesome web is. Because you'll see what all React Native does not do. Alright, so what is this about? So here you can see this is a React DevTools Flash highlights screenshot. So here you can see I'm performing an add to cart over here. Of course, you can't see the app, it's all full of re-renders. And you can see over here it's all yellow and it's blue over there. I don't think you can read the text, but over here it says view or SVG multiplied by 40. And over there it just says view and there's no multiplication. And this is more congested and that is less congested, right? So what is happening over here? So we found that whenever we would add to cart, users would face a 2-second stutter. That is quite bad. Cool. Yeah. So I don't think you'll be able to see it here, but 2 seconds for every add to cart, 10 add to cart, 20 add to cart. You can imagine we are literally taking minutes out of our users. So this was where we thought let's optimize it. Now the problem is that this is the old code base. You have to not break anything while you have to optimize everything. So it can be complicated, right? So the first thing I did was measure, right? I want to see what are we dealing with. So here you can see the moment anything happens, the entire app re-renders, and especially after add to cart, when it is successful, you see a big flash, right? So that is the challenge that we are facing. React Scan is quite cool. I hope you have used it before. But for my use case, it was harder to understand. So what I did was something very simple. Open React DevTools. How many of you have used React DevTools? Okay, not as many. You should use more. Over there, you can just have a toggle. Don't worry about profiler. Don't worry about components. Just there's a settings panel. You can highlight updates, right? And when that happens, you'll get to know what all is re-rendering, right? And over here, you can see that everything is re-rendering, right? And that was both good and bad because this told me there's no one solution to this. I can't just optimize one component and everything will get fixed. At the same time, I have to figure out how to make this work, right? So there were two lessons over here. Of course, you can use the DevTools. This is pre-AI era, so I had to do it myself. And you can see that at 2 seconds and all. Let me do one thing. So now I will not hide it. Okay, cool. So yeah, 2 seconds, quite bad. Need to improve it. So first thing is that what is that x14, right? Multiplied by 14. That means 14 times that all those components are re-rendering, right? So not only everything is re-rendering, it's also re-rendering 14 times. So that was the main problem. So what was the issue? So we had a very interesting code base where we had Redux as well as context, and both were updating together. So every Redux update was causing a context update, so that is why we were getting 14. Actually it was 7. So how do you refactor this, right? The knee-jerk reaction is let's just replace context with Zoostand, or let's just replace our state management library. But that's not feasible when you have an old code base or you want to ship it, right? So how do we do this? So my tip for you is that whenever you have to refactor such a code base, just wrap everything into a custom hook, put it all in one file, then you're only dealing with one file, right? You don't have to worry about the entire code base then. So over here you can see there is use context in multiple fields are being read. Instead, we break it into individual hooks, so then we get some more control over it. Now this is all isolated in one file, and now you can replace each context usage with a Redux usage, right? And there also you can use selector if you are using Zoostand. There also you have selectors. Every state management library has selectors. So you can use that, and that way your re-rendering logic is much more efficient. This alone was halving the problem, right? We had 7 updates multiplied by 240, so now we came to 7, so that was good. But that's still a lot, right? 7 re-renders for every single thing is quite a lot. The next thing we did was that, okay, so web developers, you have it easy. React 18, which came millions of years ago, had batching of state updates, right? In React Native, until just few months ago or 1 year ago, we had new architecture, right? Until new architecture, every single update on React Native was not batched. So when you write something like this, each dispatch is causing a re-render again and again and again. Only now people are moving towards new architecture thanks to Target SDK 35. and that is when you get to batch all these things. So yeah, web developers, you had it easy. But the fix is very easy, right? React Redux has a batch function. You just wrap all of this in batch, and straight away that 7 now becomes 1. So that's good. That solves the problem, and you can see the diff is very small. Just a function here, just some reorganizing of custom hooks, and we went from 2 seconds to 300 milliseconds. So that's a great win for the amount of code that got in. Another benefit is that this is all in JavaScript, so we could just ship it as an OTA. Again, web developers, you have it easy. But another thing you can ask is that what about React compiler? So the challenge with React compiler is, one, at this point it wasn't stable. Running it throughout our code base would be challenging. At the same time, still, as of now, React context and performance optimizations don't work that well. Even in React 19.2, you still do not have all the benefits of memorization with context. So this is still hard if you're using context. It's a sign to move towards better state management libraries. But we did use React compiler for our case. And here you can, I don't know if you can see, but over here, the second and the third screenshot is the difference between React compiler and not. And the third screenshot has less triangles or less rectangles. So that's what the React compiler did. But it did not solve the flawed logic of multiple state management solutions and not batching it. So you still have to use a read. Yeah. So long story short, we got to get rid of that 2-second stutter. So if you ever have any interaction problems in your app, my advice is just open React DevTools if you're using React, highlight the flash of re-renders, and then perform that interaction, screen record it, and then you'll see what all components have updated, and maybe your app has similar issues. That's all. Thank you so much. Any questions? Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Divjot, for the session. Now, who is ready for the second quiz? Anand got down. I want some response.
Yes.
Who is ready for the second quiz? Still not response. More. Otherwise, you will all not get goodies. So, who is ready for the second quiz? Low energy, guys. Okay. Okay, so here you can see the 4 images. So you have to connect all these dots and you have to identify what is the common entity between them.
They're all browsers. Chromium, Firefox, Edge, Explorer.
Right. Yeah, you're correct. Okay, so what's common between React and vegetables? What you get from both of them? No. Yeah, that can be one answer. Other? Yeah, right, it's correct. So, how do you know if a website is alive or not? What do you check when you are like laying around, you are ill? So, what do you check? So, can you connect what it is? We check our vitals, no? Yeah, right. So, can someone now?
Web vitals.
Yes.
Web vitals.
Yes, correct. It's called Web Vitals. So, why do React developers love thriller movies? So now connect the following. Again, there are two images. Here you can see one paper and you can see the knee pad. What is this?
Notepad.
No. Are you able to see this red line?
Margin padding.
Yes, correct. Yes, yes. Margin and padding. So you talk, yeah. Okay. When you're waiting in a restaurant for your food, what is the metric you are measuring?
Time to first bite.
Also the answer. Okay. So I'm giving stage back to our. So she will.
And now for Flashback 2, please welcome our next speaker, Amit Kumar, Senior Engineering Manager, Redbus.
Okay, hi guys. Lot of good talks throughout the day and really exciting. In a short time, I just want to ask you guys, from morning we have seen a lot of new ways, advanced ways of generating the code. Performance is increased, everything is optimized. The speed at which you are shipping the code is great. Who is at the problem? What is the problem in overall all this scenario? Any guesses? The person who is reviewing the code. So your software development lifecycle is changing at a very high speed. Now it's becoming very difficult. I review my team's code. Everything is newly generated. A lot of myths are actually floating around about that. I'll talk about in the coming slides. Actually, while coding, it's great, but it's a two-way sword. If you don't use in the right direction, and if you go with the flow, it can lead you very in the negative direction. You need to properly put a right guardrails, either use VS Code or Cursor or anything as such. The guardrails are very important. You need to know how do you want that model to behave, and based on your ecosystem, your code, your architecture, everything. So that is one important part. I'll not go into the detail of that, but on a short thing, it's very important to put right set of rules and guidelines. We are using Cursor extensively in Redbus, and we have a huge set of rules, and we use that spec-driven development also. So that makes us very sure that what is going to come out is very much aligned to what I want. I don't have to again and again fix the things what is being generated. But this is the feeling which my team had initially when I started everything. Just give the prompt, everything is fine. But it's not magic. It's actually a proper science technical thing. Now, so myths which are floating around, I'll talk about my place where I work. So it is good using cursor or using AI models, everything. It is good for fresh development. And it's not something very suitable for a large scale system like our earlier speaker was also talking. If I'm going to apply this on an old code base, it will just give me some random suggestions. It's very difficult to control how it behaves. Actually, it's not true, 100%. But yes, you need to again very specifically. Then you have to have a proper learning setup. How you prompt, what is the guardrail, which file you want to get updated. Like here, he took one specific file. He kept a very right approach and took that only one setup. There only kept on iterating and things was working in right direction without taking much of a risk. That's what we have to do. It does not. It is good in the new one. It's easier and low risk in the new code bases, but it works well in the existing code base also. Just the approach is slightly different. The next one was using this AI tools and everything makes me lazy. A lot of developers told me that also, that I don't know what I've generated. It is just coming out. I ran the code and it is working fine. So I gave the MR. But that is even risky. Down the line, 1 year, 2 years, you might not recognize that what is your code all about. That is even bad state to be in. So how we solved it, I'll come to that in the subsequent slide. You can't control or customize how cursor or any tool behaves. That is again rules, commands, everything, your constitution files, all those things will control it and you must try it. We have done this experiment on a small project, large project, full ground level bus transport project, everything, but it worked well. Now the last one is like how to plan and how to generate. For example, again this falls back to the same spec-driven development, that how you are planning. You got a PRD, you got a stuff, everything is there, everything is ready. That needs to be divided into right specs. It has to be divided into subtasks, tasks. What needs to be executed? A proper flow has to be generated by the model. Based on that, the execution should start. And I'll give you an example of that also. Now, as I mentioned, the code generation is quick, everything is fast, it's functional, but the person who reviews is in that stage that, okay, now what? Everything is very, very, very quick happening. So I'm going to focus on the code review part. The reason is the same thing, like the more and more code you are churning out, it's very important to make sure that quality does not compromise. Things will work, but at what cost? It should not go down the performance. All the other talked about your TTI, your speed index, LCP, everything. That should not get compromised. So how WordPress is doing it? We are using cursor extensively. We have created boundaries, very strict boundaries for our models, that it should not behave in a different way, that we don't expect it to. We have written a huge set of commands, and I'll show one example for that also very soon. So this is our extensive list of commands. You can see for the security checks. For example, npm library which I am using, whatever is getting installed by my team. Is there a vulnerability inside it? Is there some security flaws inside it? NPM audit will get run. Any NPM package is outdated and new version has came up. What is the difference? What kind of things I'll get? I used to, whenever I get an MR, I used to have this checks just by adding a command. So these are all commands for me, which is written inside my ID. Your server-side scan, your client-side scan, your performance scan. That after new development has happened, is it going to impact my vital and it is going to pull me down in production? That is important. So that is a mandate thing that we take care. Obviously, these are commands because we are focusing on review side, but the similar set of rules are also added so that the model works under this guidelines. This is one example of the command which I wanted to show to you upfront, that what that file contains. Actually, the performance review part performs like your time to interactive, LCP, FCP, all those kind of stuffs. So it is very clearly calling out. I have given 3 major setups, that what is my client-side architecture, what is my server-side architecture, what are the, I'm using RTK queries, I'm using like React components, Redux, it has TypeScript, everything in detail so that it gets a proper context of how it has to work. Then after that, what I look for in terms of reviewing. So what I am looking for, my re-renders on the component should not happen. That needs to be figured out very, very quickly. How is the state management, the new code which has been given to me in that branch? how is the state management is being done. RTK queries, how it is written. Is there a caching setup which is done? If it is done, what is it is in the right manner? What is the data structure? What is the complexity of it? So all those things you can see every block, including the Node.js part. This is the server-side setup. The earlier slide was on the client-side setup. So it goes through everything and helps me to understand whatever new thing has came out. Is it as per what I expect it to be? These are my custom setup guidelines which I have already given, and it became a command for me. Now, this is the output when I run this. It clearly tells me that, okay, on your client side you have total 18 issues, on your server side you have 9 issues, out of that 5 are on client 5 are major, 8 medium, 5 low. It's like that all divisions I got in that particular MR which I have received. I went to that branch and had this command and got this details. This actually reduced my time rather than going file by file and telling the same stuff. Now I know the summary, I will focus on those areas in those files. Now when I am saying the files, you can see it is clearly calling out that inside home, app TSX, you have 30 to 50% bundle reduction possibility which is there, which means the person has not used the dynamic imports. The Webpack is not utilized properly. So those problems which we were finding manually, now it can be automated, and your review process should also be fast because it should not become a bottleneck. Now, this is the overall summary in which server, client, your build setup means you use Webpack extensively, all those kind of stuff. Bundle is how much of unutilized code is shipping out, all those kind of stuff, both in JS, CSS, whatever. So this is the summary. I just wanted to show this part, that same thing. I'm not sure it is done properly. So basically, it's busy here.
We choose the quality.
Yeah. Yes, so I gave that command. You can see it is doing one by one. First, it goes and analyze performance command I have given to check everything. It goes and analyze all my files from the server, from the client, and it does everything to understand. Okay, these are the structures. This is my architecture. Against it, what I have to review. What is there anything which is not following the guidelines written inside the command? And it took somewhere around hardly takes 3 to 4 minutes to run everything completely and generate the file and puts it inside one particular folder which is on that audit. There's a folder called audit here, just above the print, and there it will give you the complete summarization report. So now it has summarized, got that what is good, bad, everything. Now it is creating that file, updating everything there, and it is going to dump in that folder. As a reviewer, I'll have to go through that completely. And in fact, in my setup right now, based on this, there is already a MCP, custom MCP which we have written, which is connected to Jira, and it will go and create a Jira directly saying that, okay, this is the final stuff. Assign this to the person who has submitted the review. So my full reviewing life cycle is very much optimized in nature right now. I have to kind of go and update that Jira manually if I want to add anything, or I have to update this file which will become a summary for the person who has given me the MR. So this full cycle is there. I'll just make it slightly forward. So, yeah. See, this is how it is creating the complete report. What is good, what is bad, where is the optimization needed, what kind of optimization needed, which file the optimization is needed, everything. And this is the audit folder where this got saved. Same file with exact minor details, summing like file name, line number, everything. So this is how you can optimize the second half after the development, before shipping, when you review, how you can make that more appropriate using AI and other tools available to you, and ship the things faster. So that is all about which I wanted to show. And as I mentioned, after this, if you create, so we have created our custom MCP for creating this as a ticket. So it goes, this creates a Jira, and again attach the complete report there, and we finally, the thing is very fast in nature. Yeah, so this is all about the remaining part. That's what I wanted to share with you guys. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing your perspective on it with all of us. And now for flash talk number 3. I welcome Ravi Surya Ishwara, independent researcher at Testing Garage.
Namaskar. Good evening. I am Ravi, and I come from the background of testing. So I do testing for my career, and it's my work. So we all here definitely have come across one day where our lead or manager come to us and ask what is the time taken or what is that average, right? Some metric. So what we do is we read all these numbers and we do some calculation and we run by them and we say this is the average, and the manager goes back, right? But we coming from the background of performance engineering as well, I'll tell you a story. So Amitabh Bachchan was put to for a bit of health checkup routine. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So Monday he walked for 1 kilometer, for 2 kilometers, and he took 1 hour. Tuesday 2 kilometers, 1 hour. Wednesday 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 5. So the next week it takes 2 kilometer 1, 2 kilometer 1, 2 kilometer 2 hours, 2 kilometer 1, 2 kilometer 1. And now in the house, Aishwarya comes and asks, why is this changed now? Now what is the average of that first week? It was 1. What is the average of the second week? 1.2. Now she gets suspicious. Why is 1 at 1.2? But Abhishek says, no, what is the average? 1 at 1.2. But she is concerned. What makes 1.2? So that's different. So she removes that data of 1.2 outside and she looks what happened to Amitabh Bachchan that day when he was walking and why did he change 2 hours and not just 1 hour that he used to change. So when we are debugging or when we are testing, we go to that point and we remove that particular data and correlate what happened at that time. So it took that 2 hours. So whenever you are giving a report to your manager or to anyone or in that aggregate, you try to learn what happened at that time that took 2 hours. So your metrics will mean something really insightful, and that 2 hours or that change is an outlier and it's a black sun sitting there which can impact. So today I decided to invite Rajesh and Asta. They had the same topic and it was put in a different way. And I also had the same topic but in a different way. I have to reshape this. So Vivek gave a beautiful insight on capturing the memory of that page, right? A page. Now, in a page, I can't capture the metric for one particular web element, but I can capture the metric for a web page. Now, if I have a snapshot of some benchmark page for that day, now I compare that for the next day. If there is a change in that CPU or memory, that tells me there is some change. Now I go back to that metric and I see what happened there. And that again comes to the same point where Aishwarya Rai Bachchan, she went and she deepened what happened to her father-in-law. So she tried to correlate and see what happens. So this is how we go and debug and we do this. So next time when you see or when you are asked to give the average response time or average latency, make sure that you are not just doing the X by N. That's wrong. You identify the outlier of black swan, remove that, correlate, and you have that data as well, and you have that X by N as well. And try to tell your story of your product, what it means for this two data. Thank you.
As we wrap up Upfront91, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to each of our speakers. We are grateful to MakeMyTrip for fostering a culture that encourages continuous learning, collaboration, and technical excellence. Events like Upfront91 today are possible because of the strong foundation and organizational support. I would like to call upon Dhananjay to give the official vote of thanks for Upfront91 episode 3.
So I think I enjoyed all the talks and I hope everyone has some takeaway. A few things which was quite, I think, significantly observed, which happens very rare. So in a group of roughly 100 folks, during all these 5 or 6 talks, we noticed there was not a single interruption from any mobile phone. So thanks to audience, we could clap for yourself. So it was quite an engaging one, where not only people who were on stage, they tried to share what they did, what they learned. I think there were equal participation from the audience side, where we had such a engaging and curious questions, which pushed us to even push the envelope ahead and try to answer those, which helped to add to the overall content. So it was, I think, the weather did not go, this is our expectation, it was slightly more cold, so the people who could, still, in spite of all these weather conditions, you were able to show up, so thanks to all of you. We hope to continue this journey where we look forward for the community participation, and every next episode, I hope we will be able to come with a new set of people. Now with this, I think now we are towards the end of the event, and I would like to invite some of our speakers who took all the efforts to come to our event and deliver some insightful talks.
Thank you, Dhananjay. I would really like to thank Dhananjay Kumar for his leadership and vision. His guidance has been instrumental in shaping today's agenda and ensuring the success of this initiative. I would like to call upon stage Saurav Rajpal, Vivek and Naman Sanjay, please.
Looks like Saurav is out of the hall right now. But I think Vivek, Naman, can you please be on stage? Saurabh, can you be on stage, please?
I want to acknowledge the tireless efforts of the organizing committee and volunteers who work behind the scenes to deliver a seamless and meaningful experience to all of your attendees. Finally, to everyone who participated today, thank you for your engagement. We look forward to continuing this journey of innovation and excellence together. Thank you once again, everyone, for making Upfront91 Episode 3 a success. Everybody, I would like to ask all all of you to gather up on the stage for a photo session.
I think we can have a group photo. Please come to the stage. So I hope all of you are following Upfront handle on Twitter. We will ensure that all the presentation text which we shared over here is passed on X or Twitter. You can get access right there.
Will everyone say something? Yeah. If you can all just come a little closer, because it's, yeah.
Some people might have to say something.
Can you stop? Huh?